VeeFam, hello. Rob, Mr. Messer back, and it's finally here. We have the amazing, the one, the only Katie, Teacher96 on the VeeFam sessions. I am so excited. Katie, how are you?
Well, Rob, thanks so much for having me. It's been a long time coming.
It, I was
You
so
here?
pumped. People, people had their own experiences at VCon, their own highlights. One of mine was when you said, "You know what? Let's do the pod." I am ready. Amazing moment. I obviously we have a lot to talk about, but I'm so happy that you carved out some time to be here. Um,
Thank
First of all,
Yes.
how are you? I know you have a lot. A lot has happened. I see you won another giveaway. I know that there's a community meetup. How are you with everything?
Busy. I'm actually really excited. Our next Boston meetup is Monday at Trist Restaurant. We've already gotten so many RSVPs. Every month we do it. There's more and more people who come in, and I'm really excited about it. It's been a really great um, venue to use for Trist and Tech. Tech Kim so graciously offers to do that. And Luke, Kenny, the three of us work together to put that together, and it's a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully, you guys can come someday. Travel up to Boston, come hang with us.
Absolutely. And for the record, you what did you just when you won a card from Gary just the other day?
I did. I won I think it was the Gracious Grasshopper. It was just like um, respond, and I'll give you one of my cards that he had pulled, which I was thrilled with. But actually, the most recent win, and I don't even know if you know this, last night I did the community box break with Maddie. He and I battled, and in the box, I got the what did I get? Oh my gosh, what did I get? I got the pig. I got a rare pig, and then he got
Whoa.
Asian panda rare in the
In
same
the same
box.
battle.
Yes, I lost, which is fine. I was happy with my card, so it was really cool.
It was the kind where you get to keep your cards.
It was.
Okay, good. That would
It
have been
was.
devastating.
It was. It. It was the first time they've done it that way in the community battle. It was really cool. So I think he'll continue to do that. Teacher's awesome with the cards. Josh has been great. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's an unbelievable movement. See, I'm in like this comfort zone going off script with you. That's just you have that effect on people.
I hope it's okay.
Oh,
I,
it's more than okay. It's more than okay. But
can I give
I
a little backstory before we start with you and
sure.
I and like why I'm here? And so I just want to, like I said, thank you for having me. You and I have been messaging back and forth for well over a year. You could reached out to me. I had to go back and look at our messages. Reached out to me because you were like, "Oh, are you a teacher?" It's like,
That's
well, I'm a
right.
former teacher. So we started talking back and forth, and I was supporting some of the things, the community initiatives that you were doing. And one day you reached out to me and you said, "Hey, do you ever want to be on my VFam sessions?" And I was like, "No." And it's funny that you asked me because I had had a conversation that day with Gentle Tornado, and he had said to me, "Will you come and be on my show?" And I was like, "No." I said, "I over COVID developed horrible anxiety, and so I really didn't put myself out there. And I was like, "There's no way." So it took me a few months to to build up the courage to be on Gentle Tornado's podcast, which I was on. I was the first female that was on there. And then you and I connected, and I said, "I'll let you know when I'm ready." And then time went by and time changed, whatever. Time went by and I never like thought to reach back out to you. I figured you would say, "Hey, are you ready?" And you never did. And so when I saw you at VCon, I was like, I'm just gonna like stay. I don't know. I didn't know what you were doing, whether you were still doing doing the VFam sessions. And so I kind of just said to you, "Hey, what do you want? Do you want me to come on?" And he was like, and you were like, "Yes, I do." So I was glad I asked. So that's really why I'm here, because I appreciated you waiting for me.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. Of course. And I've really adopted this long timeline. I really have. Like I started this project because I really believed in this. I believe in Gary, and I believe in this community, and I just believe in the whole thing. Like, really believe in it. Not just saying that because I'm gonna rah rah, but I said, okay, I'm gonna do this project because I just want something consistent to help document this journey of whatever happens with this project and the community, because like the people are amazing, as you know. You're the first one that knows that.
Mhm.
And before, it was like, at the beginning it was like, all right, I'm gonna get this person, and like, okay, I got Jeremy, and then I can get, Andy, and like all these people. And now, like, over, I don't know if it's like I'm just like more tired and have more kids now, but I'm like, I'm just really just gonna just every day like try to do it, like not get hard on myself. Like if I go 2 months without posting an episode, we were just talking off the recording how I have like a backlog of 5 episodes that I haven't even put out yet. So
Mhm.
just not judge myself, but just really just stick to, like Gary says, this is going to be around for years. Like, and so I want this to be around for years. Like, I don't want to burn out. I don't want to, try to monetize it and then get, change my relationship with it. I just want it to be like the project, and hopefully get a book out of it at the end.
And I think that's smart. Patience. That's, you have to be patient. And there's a lot of people now who are not patient, but that's always been a cornerstone of mine, is just be patient. We always know that Gary always said this is a 40 to 50-year project. So we're not in any hurry.
Totally. And then, in your case with your anecdote there, I'm not like, I know you're not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. And like, I figured it would just happen when the time is right. So
Right.
thank you for approaching me, and just making it happen, because, there's a
Sure.
few people that I would just drop anything for to do it. And, you're in that group.
Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's give
Okay.
the the listeners out there who tell us a little bit about your story before you even knew what an NFT was. Give us a little 60 to 90-second backstory,
Okay.
TLDR, on who Katie is.
So I grew up in Connecticut. I had two brothers, pretty normal, standard childhood. Happy family life. Went through school, went to college, and didn't decide until I was a junior in college that I wanted to be a teacher. I always loved working with kids. And I just never really had like a focus of what exactly I wanted to do. And once I decided to be a teacher, that was it. I mean, I just went full force. I got my master's degree, and then I taught in an elementary school. Actually, let me stop it. Taught in an elementary school after I graduated from college. Um, Met my now husband in college. So when I got married, I moved up to Boston. Um, Taught for 7 years, and then I got pregnant, and I have two children. I have two teenage daughters whom I love dearly. Um, they're my why of what I do when I do, especially being in the NFT space. I do this for them, and they don't. Right now, they're like, "We have no idea what you're doing." And I said, "Someday you're going to thank me." And they're like, "Okay, mom." But really, they're my why, is why I'm here. Um, Taught in the elementary school. Took some years off to raise my kids. Went back to elementary school and taught like a Title I math session for a few years until COVID hit, and then we went remote teaching, and it put me. I did not like that at all. It kind of like, it wasn't the one thing that drove me away from my teaching career at that point. It was a bevy of things, curriculum, data driven things that I didn't agree with. And I lost my connection with the kids through remote teaching and decided to leave. And luckily, I was also working part time at Boston University, and I supervised students who wanted to be teachers. So it was a little bit different than what I was doing. So I did that. And when COVID hit, I was sitting on the couch with my kids, and they were watching TikToks. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to start watching TikToks. My husband did the same thing. So we'd sit there and watch TikToks. And a little backstory is that when in 2013, I did an MLM called Creative Memories. MLM was like, all the moms who stayed home did like Tupperware. They sold things out of their house to make some extra money. So I did this thing called Creative Memories, which was a scrapbooking company. Now, let me tell you that I'm no salesperson. And so I spent all this money to buy the package. And I had a friend who did it. So I did it through her, and bought all these things. And I never had any parties and I never sold anything. And my husband one day said to me, why don't you just call it creative money wasting? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show you. So I took it all and I listed it on Amazon, which technically I'm not really supposed to do, but I did. And I sold it all. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So I started taking things out of my house, like games and things my kids never use, like brand new things. And I started to put them on Amazon. And I'd go to clearance racks. My biggest thing was after Christmas, I'd go buy all the Christmas clearance and I would sell it on Amazon. I did like no big sales back then. It was just a little extra pocket money. And I thought to myself, this is really weird. People make money like this. And I thought I was one of the only ones doing it, unbeknownst to me. It was not just me. And so when I was watching a TikTok, and I never told anybody I was doing this except my husband, he knew, I was doing that. Was watching TikTok and I happened to catch Gary talking about retail arbitrage. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Like people actually do this and make a living out of it. So that's when I started to consume his content. And I watched everything and he started to talk about NFTs and I was like, this is really intriguing. And so I thought to myself, I'm in. And he basically held my hand as I got a MetaMask. He showed me how to buy ETH. I did exactly what he said. I got into these communities. I mean, Clubhouse, we were all talking in Clubhouse about what we were going to do. It was exciting. You talk to people every day. It was just really refreshing. And I was like really into learning all I could. I consumed so much. I had my AirPods in all the time. My kids were like, what are you doing? It was energizing for me. And I loved to learn. Did you see why I do want to cut in
No,
there?
that's amazing. I always figured, I guess I didn't know this. I always figured you adopted Gary earlier than the TikTok era. That's fascinating.
I didn't. No, it was no. And so through consuming all the content, I'm like, I'm going to go in on these NFTs. And I remember looking in, all in Clubhouse, we were talking about all these projects that were coming out. And I looked at a Bored Ape. I was like, there's no way I'm spending money on that. I don't like that art. Yeah, well,
We know how that story goes.
Buy a Bored Ape. Hindsight is 2020. But anyway, I passed on. But I ended up with World of Women, and I ended up with a lot of really great projects that I still hold today. I'm not a trader. I hold most of the NFTs I've ever bought, so I have a lot of NFTs. But Gary onboarded me through retail arbitrage, and so now I'm in for good. And my first NFT I ever minted was the core Faithful Pheasant.
Amazing. I need to pause and take a step back just because there's too many similarities. First of all, Connecticut. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Where?
East Lyme, Connecticut.
Okay. Oh, I do know this. We talked about casino. Yep.
Yes. Yes, the casino.
Quick question about the teaching, just because we really have this similar path. Did you find yourself happier after you left?
Absolutely. I missed the kids. I didn't miss anything else. I hate to say this publicly, but the education system right now is broken. It's broken, and COVID really ripped it apart. It was on its way down before that, and just COVID destroyed what great things I felt were being presented. And don't get me wrong, there are wonderful, wonderful teachers and people and I'm incredibly lucky that I was able to leave. And there are people who can't, and I feel incredibly grateful to them. And there are, like I said, there are wonderful, wonderful teachers that are still teaching, and I give them props. It just wasn't in the cards for me to stick that out. So I needed to change my focus. And so I still want to deal with education, especially in Web3. You and I've talked about this. I'm not sure what I want to do, but I would like to make a difference somehow.
And I feel the same way. I know I can't think about the chess moves that far in advance and know where what needs to happen. I know the essence of what needs to happen, but I feel like with some tie-in specifically through VeeFriends, I'm really thinking more about that. I think something can change, but I don't think I think that what's going to change the State of the Union is going to be a menu of things, more options. Like we're talking about co-ops now that no one even knew what a co-op was, 6 years ago. So there's that. just a quick aside to articulate this. When I left teaching twice. The second time I left it, last, we're talking about end of 2021.
Mhm.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I had to get out. I didn't have a plan. It's funny because I wouldn't have been able to done it had we not been getting a residual check from an MLM, but that's another story. Um,
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah.
Not creative memories or creative money wasted stories.
No. Um, but anyway, I was like, I don't know what to do. I just need to listen to Gary. So he's like, post the TikTok, do the LinkedIn, yeah, bum, bum. So I started just documenting what I was going through leaving teaching mid-year, which is like, you know, a big no-no, right? Like I got ostracized by most of
Well,
the building. So I started posting on
awful.
TikTok like my resignation, and it just blew up. Like I not blew up, like I got like 2,500 followers. But my point in saying this is every day I had more comments saying, just put in my resignation, or so envious, I need to leave. People that are
Right.
in grad school, they haven't even graduated yet. They were
Mhm.
like, I'm making a terrible decision, aren't I? Like, this is every day I'm getting these comments. And it's a terrible, terrible uh, turn of events what's happened with teachers, because obviously through COVID, they're taking more and more away and putting more and more on your plate. The kids have changed, a societal thing,
Absolutely.
the
Mhm.
vast number of uh, issues that get brought into the classroom and get put into the teacher's lap. And I didn't realize how, I knew we were underpaid. I didn't realize how little we were paid until I actually started getting exposed to the real world outside of that. So,
Well, I knew because my husband always teased me, like, okay, now you're not working for the summer. Well, you're really not making anything. Granted, I always worked 3 jobs in the summer. But
mm,
yeah, no, I always realized how little we got paid, but I had a passion back then for teaching and for kids and wanting to push education. And yeah, teachers are definitely underpaid and undervalued. They always have been. And I hope someday that changes. And maybe because this happened, it maybe will. Maybe we'll push those things forward where teachers are more valued. And um, but we'll see what happens. But
so pivoting back to May of 2021, when you're, minting your pheasant, what is your husband saying about this?
not not much. He really doesn't have any like he doesn't he'll listen to what I say, but he has no like interest in conversing about what I'm doing. He just lets me do what I do what I do. Um I told him what I did and he's like, "Oh, that's good." I mean, he's supportive. He's like, "That's great." And all these things were happening at this time. I was never sleeping, so I was on my computer all hours of the night. He goes to bed very early. And so it was pretty much me doing all these things. But he's been supportive. And, he makes fun of me and he thinks it's really funny that I'm so into this. But it's worked out.
Mm. So you were what we would call an OG in the clubhouse room
I don't know. Sometimes that's not a good term, but yeah, I
for
definitely was an OG.
for all intents and purposes. We
Yes.
uh, so what was, how would you describe your first taste of the community? Because at the beginning, like, it wasn't even called VeeFriends. People didn't know. We just knew Gary was doing this thing and he was educating people, as you said before. You know, just if you could take a beat and just kind of describe the aura, the of those early days when you're starting to meet people.
It was amazing. The vibe in the clubhouse was just everybody wanted to help everybody else. People were giving away this, giving away that, giving education, telling people to go here, go. It was wonderful. And I remember people say like, there was a lot of, and I never spoke really in Clubhouse. I was never a speaker back then. I listened to everybody, but it was just so positive. And I was so excited to be part of something new. And, you know, we didn't know what was happening in the foreseeable future, but we all had the same vision. We were all really behind Gary. We were all really positive about what was going to happen. And we were excited about the technology and the thought of what could be. It was just really, really positive, and I loved listening to. I love people, and I loved listening, to getting to know new people, and listening to their stories. Everybody was very forthcoming with what was happening, and it was a great. It was. I'm so happy that I was part of that. To be honest with you,
Why the pheasant?
I didn't choose the pheasant chose me. So funny story is I didn't mint on I tried to mint on the first day. I was working full time at the time that it was minting. So it was very limited time for me when the drop came. So I had just enough ETH in there to buy core, which was what I was going for. I never looked through the things to see what I wanted because I didn't know enough. And I also never knew people were buying more than one. Like I look hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh, people were buying more than one. So I really was green back then. So anyway, I did not mint. I tried to mint on the first day and I couldn't. I minted, I think it was the third day. And I just kind of went through and put in what I had. And all of a sudden I came out with the Faithful Pheasant. So I didn't know what I wanted, but the pheasant chose me apparently. So that's what I ended up with. I bought it on the floor, core on the floor, and I still have it to this day. So
amazing. I love that. The pheasant chose me.
Yeah.
So as obviously we start to learn more about the characters, and there's drops and collaborations, and then the predominant means of communication moves from Clubhouse to Twitter Spaces, and of course the Discord. Sometime around August, Gary went on a rant all day of 2021, talking about the book games. So he was concocting one of the biggest book marketing campaigns of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about where you were during that time, and did you tap in that day? Did you get some books?
I did.
There was an important day. Let's revisit that, August of 2021.
Okay, so I am a collector. I laugh because I see all these people with collector's corners. No, you see, I have no collector's corner behind me. My collector's corner is in a box in my closet, and it's a big box. So I like to collect things. I guess I didn't realize how much I liked it until all this happened because I have a lot of things from VeeFriends and from other projects that I'm in. But I definitely was into the book games. Listen, I'm a gambler at heart, and I love sweepstakes. I love contests and things like that. So the thought of getting a free NFT for buying books, I'm like, I'm in. I bought 168 books. And so I ended up with 14 NFTs. I think it was 14 NFTs. But I love the unknown and seeing what I end up with. So I was all in. And actually after that drop, and he said, give away your 12 and a half books, I ended up giving away a lot of my 12 and a half books to people who needed the books after all was said and done. So I was all in. And so I have, let's see, I've never sold any of my book games. I bought a couple more, but I think I may have 16 or 17 book games, still have them. So I'm curious to see what happens with them. I will not burn them. I'm not all these burning things they have. That's not for me. I'm not burning anything. So
no, so you'll even if it's a very enticing sweepstakes, or well, I guess the way they're doing away with the sweepstakes, but eruptions, I should say.
No, none of these eruptions have enticed me at all, which is fine. There was lots of people who are on it, and I'm happy for the people who've won. So,
what do you think about as an idea, as a function of the eruptions? Do you like the do you like the essence of it? I mean, do you like the idea of burning VeeFriends
no,
NFTs in the ecosystem?
not for me. I don't know. Listen, I remember early things that Gary said. Paper hands will be destroyed. Hold everything. He never was like, "Oh, go burn it." I just feel like it creates opportunities, and someday he's going to come back and be like, "I told you, hold everything you have." So that's my premise: is I'm holding everything, not burning anything. I didn't even burn a VCon ticket for the Snoop Dogg collab. I'll buy a Snoop Dogg ticket. It's not for me.
I bought an extra to burn, and I just missed it. I missed the timeline. Yeah. So now I have an extra VCon 22 ticket.
What do you think about the most recent burn, my network guy, which congratulations to him, took almost all the prizes?
I mean, yeah, great for him. I think it's it's fun. I think it's fun. It's an opportunity for people to uh, innovate, because people really come up with really clever ways to navigate some of these eruptions. And
Right.
I like the factions that
Mhm.
come about, and a lot of them, like, Mohit will,
Yeah.
gather all of these people to
Yeah.
try to make something happen. I like
Yeah.
that. It's super fun. Um, and the deflationary thing is, I think it's part of I think it's just part of the deal right now. I think it just helps. But yes, to your point, great call out with the OG book games, kind of Gary Alpha dropping um, in his messaging. Paper hands will be destroyed, and I think
Like,
people will uh, look back, and that's why I love conversations like these, and really scratch their head about what they were thinking.
I always think to myself, the things that he said, this is a 40 to 50 year project. Okay. I'm not expecting anything tomorrow. Don't spend any more money than you can afford to lose, which is a big, huge thing, because now you see these people who are spending money they shouldn't spend, and paper hands will be destroyed. You're going to be sorry someday. This is what I'm going to do someday. All my OG holders, those people, I honestly think people who minted their VeeFriend in the beginning and held on to it, someday there'll be something for them. As far as, I mean, we know a lot of people say, oh, Gary promised this, Gary promised that, and he didn't follow through on that, but we'll see what happens. I'm happy to wait.
Mm, I love that. I'd love to hear your take, just because you've been there and you know a lot of these people, and obviously we don't need to talk about specific situations. But what do you feel inside when you have this, like, Wusa community, kindness, like, it's a very tight knit group, and then, with that said, we're only a couple years removed from that, and a lot of people have kind of, for lack of a better word, just to kind of turn heel,
Mm-hmm.
and are very outspoken going against VeeFriends. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just curious, as someone that's believes in the project and probably believes in those individuals as well. Like, what goes through your head when you see that kind of thing?
I have compassion because I know everybody's in a different situation. And there are people who've made mistakes. I'm sure I've made many mistakes. There are people who've gotten scammed. I mean, everybody has a different story to tell. I take it all in. I'm happy for the people. And I see people that I knew back then who are killing it, who are just growing and emerging and doing all these wonderful things. So this is what I love about the community is, and that, there are always going to be flutters, and that's fine. People's minds can be changed, and everybody's is available to give their own opinions and things like that. I value that. I value everybody's opinion. Everybody's entitled to have their own opinion. Everybody has their own journey. So if I listen, I'm not going to be one to criticize someone else and say don't say that or do say that. I just like to take it all in because I think everybody's input is valuable. And we learn from these things too. I always used to say, as a teacher, you're going to learn from other people's mistakes. So these people who've made mistakes, you're going to that's um, a bigger learning opportunity sometimes than just regular learning, is learning from other people's mistakes. So I completely understand people who do fund the project. Maybe it's some kind of experience they have had. So I'm very open minded when it comes to that. I mean, I know what I believe in, and I know what I'm rooted in, and what I believe about. So that's how I kind of live my life.
Amazing. Yeah, we're very alike in that regard. I try to stay very, obviously I'm passionate and I believe in the project, but when I'm hearing that, and, like, believe it or not, VCon, there are some situations where it's very, very thick, just negativity and toxicity. And I really try to stay objective and listen to the points. But at the end of the day, it, to your point, it is all about their personal situation, what they bought in at,
Right.
the couple of lines that were rattling around their brain that they're holding on to,
Mhm.
with, as far as high expectations, or, a
Right.
quick return. So it all
Right.
boils down to that. I think people are having a hard time, uh, the things that Gary shouts over and over again. I think people, it just kind of washes over people, and they don't really soak it in and listen to it. Like, this is not an NFT project. Like,
Right.
we're not navigating it as an NFT project. We're building an IP here that it's going to take a while, and that's probably the number one thing that people really don't sit back and think, okay, what does that mean?
Right.
Disney, like let's look at the history of Disney. How long did that take to be created, or any IP versus
Right.
something that was created in a time where people are just throwing things at the wall and just going. But that doesn't mean it looks like that.
Right. Right. It's interesting because we're all watching this grow and everything's changing. And even the introduction of AI is going to play a role. We don't know what's coming. And so you kind of have to roll with the punches here and understand that things are going to grow and change. And for some people, that's hard to understand. Like they stick to the one thing they believe in, or what they think should happen. You have to be flexible in this market. I mean, we're watching history as we're participating in history right now. Someday people are going to look back and be like, oh, I was there for that. So that's one of the other exciting things to me is I'm looking forward to being part of this movement of, Web3 and, AI coming in has been amazing. And there's going to be lots of different things to grow and change.
Absolutely. It's been about 13 months now, but I'd like you to try to put yourself back into May of 2022. If you could remember, VCon, obviously it was VCon 1, and nobody really knew what to expect. Obviously, there was great promo videos and speakers, all of that. But if you can think back to what your expectations were, if any, and then how you felt when you were there, what was that first year of camp like?
If my kids heard you say, can you remember back to 2021, they would laugh because half the time I can't remember what I did yesterday. So that's a fun thing with age, is that I don't have a great memory. But no, VCon was life changing for me. I didn't know what to expect. I went into it really excited, and I went into it because, like I said, I love people. I went into it looking forward to connecting with people. Was the thing, is meeting these people who I've talked to in Clubhouse and in messages, in real life. And I loved the excitement of it. Everybody was, everybody had the shared vision and was excited about what was coming. And it was just an exciting time for me. But meeting people in real life, which is what I love to do now and has kind of led me to what I'm doing now, was the precipice of what my expectation at VCon was. And it did not disappoint. I loved VCon. I thought it was great. I made a lot of new friends and networked with lots of different people. And it's funny because I really didn't go to any of the speakers. I mean, I watched obviously Gary, and I saw a couple people on the main stage, but most of my time at VCon was spent with people and talking to them and getting to know them. So
Is there
I
one
always tell
moment?
everybody it was life changing. Again, my husband laughs at me, my kids laugh at me. They're like, okay.
Was there one moment that still sits with you as being a jumping off the page as like, wow, this is such a special thing that happened?
It was really just Gary's speeches and how he was going to change the world, and the excitement of the tech and the electricity and the things people were looking forward to building was really like the whole thing that I took out. I'm trying to think if there was one specific thing. There were so many serendipitous moments that happened at VCon for me, and I think that's really when I started to focus on like letting those opportunities happen for me. I guess I was more open-minded, but it was great. I really loved VCon, and I loved VCon this year. I thought VCon was great this year. It was a very different experience this year, but because now I focused in on more of the speakers and who I wanted to listen to. But I also knew more people, and I knew some of the speakers that were up on stage. So I really had the focus of trying to meet certain people.
Interesting. Because I was kind of the opposite. I did more speakers last year, but now this year I was like, oh, I got to go say hello to this person, or this group's over here. I got to hang out. Interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah.
This year, as far as the event, how do you feel like they did? As far, you're always active on Twitter, Discord, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of the feedback. How do you feel like, and obviously they've gotten their fair share of feedback, in many different forms. Do you feel like it was an elevated experience? Do you feel like how do you think the team navigated incorporating listening to the community?
I thought I thought it was good. I've definitely heard FUD. I've heard people, not a lot of FUD, but I felt like some of it. I thought they did a great job. Let's overall say, there were a few things I felt all the different stages were. I felt it was confusing to know where you were going. I felt myself wandering a lot of the times, like where am I going? Who am I going to see? But I mean, the setup was great. I thought the stadium was awesome. I thought they made a great pick. It looked like there were less people there to me this year, but I'm not sure if that was true or not, because I've heard people say there were more this year. I'm not sure what the stats were, but I thought it was set up great. I liked the different speakers that they had come in. Some of them weren't Web3, some of them were, athletes, and there was a lot of variety as far as the speakers go. But I mean, I thought overall it was a great experience. What about you? What did you think?
I thought it was great. I thought everything was just the production value. I think was elevated. I liked how it felt a little bit more. Yes, it was a big football stadium, but it didn't seem like Minneapolis at all when you were. And that's a lot of that is the nature of the building. I remember going up like 4 floors to go to some things last year. Kind of like the business part is done. Like let's have fun now, and
Right.
the team was there, showing that as well. So which was really cool.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Let's get into the cards. You obviously got cards shipped to you because everyone that had a series 2 got cards. How were you into it then? What makes you into it now?
I wasn't as in. Well, of course, I was excited to see what I could pull, but I didn't. There were so many things we didn't understand back then about the cards. I ended up getting 7 boxes because I minted 6 V2s. So from my 14 book games, I got 6 allow list spots, which is awesome. Listen, I'm incredibly lucky. I'm going to say that out loud. I know people have made comments about how many things I win. I'm blessed to be incredibly lucky. So I've had a lot of really great opportunities because of that. So I minted 6 V2s, and so I got 6 boxes, and then I got my 7th box for my V1. And I was really excited to open my boxes and see what I had. And honestly, like the 6 boxes, I sold one. Actually, sold one of my boxes. That was one of the only things I've sold to a friend who was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a box. Can I buy one from you?" And I said, "That's fine." But I did not have any great pulls in any of my boxes. And so I watched as people opened them, and the longer it went, and then all of a sudden, there wasn't anything really great in the very beginning. So it's almost like those first boxes were not that great, because then months later, you started to see people pull 1-of-1s and hollows and like crazy pulls. And so, there was a lot of speculation in the community about, it's fixed, whatever, all those boxes are, not great. And I know lots of people who had tons of boxes that opened many more boxes than I did, that also didn't get anything. So I wasn't really into it. Now, as it gets closer and closer, and of course, I'm trying to collect my Faithful Pheasant. So I've picked up a lot of those rare cards. It's more exciting, but I love like the community is getting together and doing the box breaks. I did with Jeremy, before Jeremy worked at VeeFriends, he was streaming. He streamed tons of box openings. Yeah. And there was one that Cohen and I went head to head and did like a box break, and whoever won got all the cards. I lost, but it was fine. I think I ended up with one of the last glass standing cards that he wanted. So it was fun. But anyway, so I participated in that way back when. And so that's when I really started to be, really interested in it. And I see what people are collecting. And I have a binder that has cores in it. I have not finished my core collection just because I haven't spent the time to do it. But I've really, really realized that I'm a collector at heart. And I never realized that until now, because I have lots of collections of things from when I was a kid that I still have. So it's kind of like really brought out the collector in me. And so I'm into it now. I think it's fun.
It's super fun, and it's taken over my house since VCon, and I think especially coming from that teacher vantage point, and you just see how the kids interact with things and how just rapid something like that
I
can
love
expand
watching
and
the
catch
box
on.
breaks with the kids. It's awesome. It's really
Totally.
so much fun.
It could be one of those things we look back at and say, wow, like that was the thing that
Right.
really took VeeFriends to that next level.
And I think you're going to see a huge shift. Like you said, the cards night, I think they really understood that we're into it. I
Mm-hmm.
think they really got the vibe from the community. There's a lot of us that are really into the cards. And I think that it might have been a good turning point for them to now focus on it, because now Gary's been in on the streams of people who are opening and really, participating in it and making it exciting. And now that they're going to be in full force at the card show, we'll see what happens from there. But
Mm.
yeah, I like it. I think it's fun.
What do you think? I don't know if this term will stand the test of time, but what do you think of Twitch Gary?
I love Twitch Gary. I was just having this conversation. I forgot who I was talking to. Twitch Gary is hysterical. He's totally different than online Gary. And you can really get the sense of his competitiveness. I mean, we all know he's competitive, but he's ruthless in Twitch. There's no holding
Totally.
back with him. So,
And Tom's first stream
oh my
was the
God.
first time that I saw Twitch Gary.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, it's just chat, so you really don't know. And he was going no holds barred on this guy, and I'm
What did
like,
you think of that? Were you taken aback when he was like, "Oh, you
I was
lost
probably
it"?
I was probably like 60% like, oh, this is just like his jets, like he's just joking around. But 40% of me
Yeah.
was like, wow, like what's going on here?
Okay,
Um,
because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel bad for for Tom. He's really funning him, and he's really making him feel bad." But then the video that Tom made after that, I was like, "Oh, I get it." So good job.
Perfect
I thought
response. Yeah.
I thought it was a perfect response, and I got it. And I loved the analogy he made about Gary and his friends, and how he was talking about, this is how Gary talks to his friends. So of
Hmm.
course Tom's like, I'm one of his friends, and that's how he would talk to me. So I thought that was a great analogy.
Absolutely. And I love that little dynamic of
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
going back and forth at
Yeah.
him. But anyway, yeah, I'm a big buyer of Twitch Gary. I feel like I would love to see more of the VeeFriends universe get a taste of Twitch Gary.
Right. And I think they will. Like I said, I think this will be, now that Tom is starting and Josh is doing all these streaming. I think it'll be something.
Um, Obviously, you're a big part of the community. VeeFriends community is known, for this, that, and the other thing. But let's take a step back. What does that word community mean to you?
It really is just a group of individuals who want to see each other succeed and who support each other, whether it's with words or buying their project or networking people together that they can work with. Community builds together. We all want to see, and that this is one of the things that Gary has always said. You want to see your friends win. I want to see my friends win as we all win together. It's better to win when we're all together. I'm not jealous of other people's journeys and successes, and I'm happy for them, genuinely happy for them. And I think the VeeFriends community is like no other, because there's so many people in the VeeFriends community who just want to see everybody else win and build together.
What do you think the most misunderstood thing about VeeFriends is?
I think people think we're a cult, which I don't know. Is cult a bad word? We've talked about this too, and I don't know. Unless you're in it, I don't think people understand, and that's fine. I could be misunderstood. People can say, "Oh, you love Gary, this and that." But what I love about Gary is the message. Lead with kindness, have empathy, have compassion. Like I tell my kids all the time, it's free to be kind. You'd never know what anyone else is going through, and people put up. So here we're going to veer off here onto like social media. I was never a proponent for social media before I got into VeeFriends and and Gary. And my kids laugh at me now because I never posted anything. I never posted my kids on Facebook. And I just wasn't, I tried to like steer them away from social media. And so now I have to see a different side of it, because now I'm on Twitter all the time, and my kids laugh at me. But it's something that is necessary and needed. And we'll see where we go from here. So it's kind of changed my mind in that aspect, but we're all working together. We're all working to support each other. And I say, like, you just never know what anybody else is going through. So where I was going with the social media is you can't believe everything you see on social media. Unfortunately, the bad side of social media is that as I'm watching my teenagers consume content, everybody's seeing all the great things in everybody else's lives. And it's caused a lot of COVID's going to come out. COVID's going to produce children and adults who have PTSD and mental issues and mental health problems. I've seen a real huge insurgence of kids who struggle. And so I try to communicate that message with my kids is, everything you see isn't great. Everybody's lives aren't perfect like you see online. And so be kind, be gracious, take everything with a grain of salt. So I kind of veered off the topic there. So
No,
that's my ADHD.
I love that. It's super important. How old are your daughters again?
I have 19 and almost 16.
Is there a possibility that you bring them to VeeCon in 2024?
There is. Actually, my 19-year-old may come with me. And it's funny because I was at a family party this past weekend for graduation. And one of my daughter's friends is dating this kid he's a high school student. And he comes up to me, he says, I hear you do NFTs. Can I talk to you about it? And I laughed and I sat there and had a half an hour conversation with him. And I said to him, do you want to go to VeeCon next year? He goes, yes. I said, well, you can go to VeeCon next year. I'm going to get you in. And I told my daughter, I talked to this person. She's like, oh, there's my ticket to VeeCon. I said, no. I'll still get you to go to VeeCon. So I may be bringing a few
Wow. Look at you.
next year, which was really funny.
I think Gary has said this too. The prediction about more family being there next year. I think we're in that. A lot of people, I think, are in this like, okay, year one, see what it's about. Year two, fully or more deeply cement the relationships that you have with the community. And now it's like, all right, year three, bringing other people in. And naturally, that's going to be the people closest to you.
Well, one of the things I remember early on, I had a conversation with someone, and I don't know if it was Gentle 20, it might have been on this podcast, I don't know. But I said, our kids are going to know each other someday. They're going to talk to each other because they're all going to be VeeFriends holders like we are. And the realization that 20 years from now, like they're all going to know each other eventually because they're going to be doing, I don't know, is VeeCon going to be a thing then? Who knows? I don't think VeeCon is only a 3-year deal personally, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I've always thought of the fact that my kids are going to have my NFTs. So they'll know your kids maybe, and we'll see.
That's really, really cool to think about. That's a really neat point. Yeah, and I believe it's going to be extended as well. I think next year is going to be bananas. He obviously took a Web 2 mainstream pivot this year, and I think that was just to leverage and make year three bananas, so it can be a public ticketed thing that people will want to attend in 25 and beyond.
Do you remember Gary saying, wait until year 3?
No, yeah.
Wait until year 3, because he knew that people were going to be building relationships and networking and, where we'd be after 3 years.
You've had a chance to meet him, both in line at VeeCon and, when we were in Miami, it was a more intimate setting and we got a little bit more time with him. What would you say to people that don't really believe it? His aura, the way he is. I just your perspective on meeting him, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
no. Well, what you see is what you get, and he knows you. When you talk to him, he actually reciprocates. You've got his full attention when you talk to him. A funny story is when I went to the Jets game. I had met him at Macy's, and it was a month prior. And when I went to the Jets game, I went up to him and I gave him a hug. And I said, "Hi, Gary. Do you remember me?" And he says, "Yes. You were the second one in line in Macy's." So he truly knows people, and he's always said, he'll say, "Hi, Katie." He definitely knows who I am. But he does that I've heard that from so many people. He remembers things that you've talked about from way back when. What you see with Gary is what you get. That's in my opinion. And like I said, I've met him a few times, and he's just very genuine and really interested in what you say. He takes it all in, and I commend him for that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I couldn't agree more. And the more part of my homework for this project, I'm building and eventually interviewing him. I'm watching all of the daily V's from beginning to end, and it just nothing changes. Like
Right.
he hasn't changed.
Not at all.
He's still the same. So I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
We talked about the community. He hasn't changed. You have so many relationships, and you're loved by everybody. And
I don't know about everybody, but
I will say everybody. I've never heard anyone speak anything but the glowing terms about you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
There's and you just so many acts of kindness, and and you went back to how lucky you are. I think what you put out into the world you get back, and you just put so much out, and you're so generous and thoughtful with your words and gestures, so that's not a surprise that's coming back to you. But one thing
You
I
are
like
too,
to
by the way. Yes.
I appreciate that. One thing I do like to ask people of your stature in the community, just because you talk to a lot of people, you hear things. So many of these amazing stories of giving
Mhm.
get swept under the rug because people like to keep it. They don't want the attention on them, which is fine. But I love to ask people that are in the know, like you, dropping names or not. Give me a story of an unbelievable act of giving or kindness that you heard about or a part of in the community.
I have to say, there's so many. There's so many people who are. I've met the most generous people I've met in my entire life in the community. Um, you know, I'll talk about this part. So Tech Kim, both. All right. So as my Web3 weekly space that I host now with Tech and Luke, I've gotten to know them. But I'm going to say both of them are so incredibly generous, and they don't take any credit for it. Um, they both own restaurants, and so they both do a lot with food, giving food to the poor. They're both planning on starting something with organic farming, and I don't know the details of it, but I just remember coming away from meeting them and thinking so incredibly gracious and thoughtful and just happy to give. So I'm not going to give the specific examples because there are so many, but two of the most incredibly generous people I know, Tech Kim and Luke Kenny. And
Amazing.
people should research them because so many things they've done in the background that they don't want any credit for.
I love that. I gotta circle back with Tech. I think I asked him to be on a while ago, and I think it
You
just kind of fell
absolutely
off.
should. And you should get Luke on here too. I mean, just so incredibly humble, or they both are.
And you kind of alluded to this with the family thing. So, Gary says, it's a 40, 50-year project. What does this look like in, I guess, 10 years from the start? So like 2031, what are we doing? What does VeeFriends look like to the world?
I'm hoping, actually, I believe it will be one of the projects that are still, that are still around. Again, another thing Gary said is 99% of these projects will not be here. And a lot of them have dropped off. There's definitely, still a few that are still standing. I am hoping that it will be one of the big projects. And I think the platform that he's building for people and allowing them to build on their own is already evident to me after year two. There are people in this community who are building incredible things that I think will make an impact someday and it'll be much more well known. More people will be onboarded into Web3, whatever that you want to coin the term Web3. I think it'll be pretty amazing. 10 years, I see pretty amazing things for VeeFriends. I'm hoping that, we'll all still be part of that. And I know I will be, hopefully. And, I look forward to the future. It's hard for me to predict because things move in so quickly in this space that like I said, with the introduction of AI, just in the small amount of time it's been, I've seen incredible things produced already. So
It was an unbelievably unfair question, I know.
I answered it as best as I could.
The other question before we head into our last segment, I always love to ask people, what character do you feel like you need to spend more time with?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I know the ones that I adhere to. Like I'd love all the aspects of like the kind kudu and then generous giraffe. And who do I need to spend more time with? You know what? I don't even know if I can answer that question. What about you? I'm going to throw that back to you. What about you? Which one do you need to spend more time with?
If I go a little deeper, I bet I could. I feel like I could always get better with empathy. So empathy elephant, but the one I always go to first is organized ostrich, just because I'm
okay.
in everything I do.
I'm going to say yes, the same thing for me, because that was my goal this week, was to get more organized. But now I'm thinking about the forthright flamingo. Sometimes I'm not forthright enough about things. I need to work on that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I'll take that one.
That's a good one. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm really understanding and can empathize, and other times I'm like, I feel like I should have felt worse for this person or better for this person. I'm like, I don't know.
Listen, empathy is a hard thing. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so empathy is one of the things that I feel I entertain a lot. And it's funny, I've had this conversation with my 19-year-old, because as she's gone to college, friendships change and people change. And we've had this conversation about how she gets hurt a lot. And then she says, my friends aren't empathetic like I am. They don't care about what happens to me. I care too much about what happens in this situation and that situation. So sometimes it's a double-edged sword to be empathetic, but it definitely takes work. And I think some people are born to be empathetic, and there are some people who just can't ascertain to be empathetic, and that's fine. But it's definitely something to be worked on.
100%. Before we head into our last segment, I can't thank you enough. You're one of the people in the space I love the most, and you have just the sweetest soul and heart, and just a poster child for what this community is. So I'm so happy that we finally got you on. This last segment is, I call it micro macro spitfire. So I'm going to do a lot of fast questions. You can answer it very general. Very general macro answer, or you can get your microscope out and really explain why.
Okay.
So here we go. If you're just getting into the VeeFriends world, who is one person you need to follow on Twitter?
Mr. Messer, Rob.
What was your first NFT?
VeeFriends, Faithful Pheasant core.
If another brand, influencer, artist, whatever, created an NFT or a token, who would that be that you would have to have it? You drop everything you do and ape in right away.
Tim Tebow.
Favorite teacher you had growing up, and one reason why?
Mrs. Johnson, grade 1, because she made me feel seen. Probably one of the reasons I'm a teacher nowadays.
I love that. A secret talent you have that most people don't know you have.
Let me think about that. I can put anything together. Like my kids' toys, it's me. I do all those things. I fix things around my house. I'm a handy woman. I do all those things myself. I maintain my pool. I fix everything around here.
Let's go. The time machine tiny ogre can be traded for what down the road?
down the road, like later on, I think the speculation of picking up a V1, maybe even a goo from Gary, that could be it.
If you had to keep only one social media platform, which would you keep?
Twitter.
Favorite movie?
The Goonies.
Nice.
Love that movie.
VeeCon 2024 will be in where?
I think it's going to be in Canada, maybe Toronto.
Bougie
I hope
Hotel.
it's so I would like that.
That's my call too. I think if they can do it logistically, I think they're gonna. I love Toronto. I'm just really hoping for that. Bougie Hotel or hiking and camping?
Bougie Hotel. Sorry. It's true.
No apologies. That's you. Favorite concert you've ever been to?
Bruno Mars. Close second, Justin Timberlake.
Ooh, Bruno over JT.
Yeah.
That's for another conversation.
Yep.
Wine, beer, or coffee?
Coffee. I quit drinking 3 years ago.
Good for you.
One of the things in my journey. Yeah.
Paper Hands Pony or the koala?
Koala.
Gratitude Gorilla or Patient Panda?
Patient Panda.
Would you rather have a 2-hour group dinner with Gary, so you and 9 other people, or a 10-minute one-on-one?
2-hour group. You can extract so much more value from that, in my opinion.
How do you want to be remembered in the VeeFriends world?
As being kind and being able to see people, being a connector.
And if you could ask, if Gary is here right now and you could ask him one thing that he would have to answer truthfully, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question. I always want to ask him about his kids. I'm always curious to know, like, how do you balance your kids with what you're doing? Because I struggle with that all the time. But that's it. That's what I would want to know.
I love that. It's so funny how we're just thinking on the same wavelength and so many things.
It's a tough thing. I see and listen, like I said, I have 2 teenagers, you have little kids. It's different being in the space when you have a family as opposed to being in the space single. So
I totally agree. And it's going to be interesting to see, talking about, the years going on, how people, their journeys and their character changes when they do get married, have families, and go through those life changes. But yeah, Gary, the amount we consume, you pretty much know what he's going to say. But since that's part of his world is so closed off, I'm so intrigued by it.
Right.
Especially with his background of how he feels like he is where he is because of the parenting he got. Mm-hmm. So that topic fascinates me.
I agree. The same for me. Yes.
Amazing. Teacher96, Katie, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is not going to be the first time you're going to be on this podcast ever. But if you are listening and it's June of 2023, check out the Weekly Brew, Teacher96. I'll post all of the links here. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy I finally made it on here. It's definitely a big tick in my journey of things that I wanted to accomplish. And I appreciate you seeking me out way back when. It's a lot of you have made a big difference in my life. A lot of these VeeFriends and people I've had, and I've always felt a really special connection to you. And when we were in Miami, it was great sitting with you and getting to know you. And I'm happy for you and your family. And, you have your beautiful twins that were born and your son who's adorable. And I just getting to know your wife, Chelsea, who's awesome. So just looking forward to the future, working with everybody.
Appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.